Calvó-Armengol Prize was created to honor the memory of our colleague and friend, Antoni Calvó-Armengol, professor at the Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona and one of the most promising academics of the Barcelona Graduate School of Economics, and also one of the best scientists in Andorra's history. The three institutions that promote this initiative design an award to recognize international renowned, young and promising social scientists like Tony was.
Professor Chetty was able to emerge as a very unique and innovative contributor to this vast body of knowledge. He combined standard data obtained from many sources with other information that he derived from research purposes. His presentation today is in the line of his recent work on concerns that are at the very root of our democratic values: the opportunities for young people to improve their lot relative to their parents, and the role of education, of educators, and of the social environment in creating conditions for a country to become a land of opportunity.
The angle that I'm going to focus on in this lecture is to ask whether social mobility is determined primarily by forces such as genetics, for example, things that are very difficult to change, or can they be influenced significantly by changes in environment? And if so, what can we possibly do to improve children's chances of success through changes in policy, for instance? The main result is that there's substantial variation in intergenerational mobility within small communities within the United States. We show that much of that variation across areas that we document in the first study is actually due to the causal effect of neighborhoods, that we think this is an environmental effect, and not merely the fact that different people live in different places. So location matters much more for low-income families rather than high-income families. If you're from a family in the top 1%, it actually doesn't make very much difference if you're in Salt Lake City or Charlotte. And that's maybe intuitive, that rich people are able to insulate themselves from local conditions, for instance, by sending their kids to private schools and not having to use the local public schools. The distinction between relative mobility and absolute mobility, I think, is quite important, because it's not clear that a flatter slope is necessarily a good thing, meaning a lower intergenerational correlation doesn't necessarily mean that it's low-income kids doing better. It could rather be high-income kids doing worse, right? So you shouldn't necessarily be interested in the intergenerational correlation or measures of relative mobility from a normative point of view. However, these measures of absolute mobility, how well are kids from low-income families doing in absolute terms, I think everyone can agree that if we improve absolute mobility at the bottom, in dollar terms we get low-income children to do better, that's better for them and that's better for the economy as a whole. It looks like every extra year that you spend in a better place, no matter what age, helps you. It's not just the earliest years that matter, which is actually a very important policy debate currently in the United States. What makes some places generate better outcomes than others? And let me just highlight the 5 most significant ones. I mentioned segregation. A second very important correlate is the degree of income inequality in an area. A third important factor is the quality of education. And then the 2 final factors, which actually link nicely with the theme of this conference and Tony's work on social issues, 2 of the strongest correlates are measures of social capital and family structure, kind of the social cohesiveness in an area, the degree of religiosity, the degree to which people help each other. Another very important correlate, actually the single strongest correlate in the data, is the fraction of single parents in an area. The main lesson I take away from this is that intergenerational mobility is shaped at least partly by environment and therefore may be manipulable by policy, which I think is very encouraging. The next step in this type of research is to use this type of cross-area variation to learn more about the determinants of upward mobility. What is it that these high upward mobility areas are doing right, and how can we replicate that in other places?